Hello, and welcome.
Welcome back to Aetheral Space Park.
Yeah, we're only... where you might get eaten by Dragon. It can't be helped.
He's hungry.
He's very, very hungry.
Well,
Alright.
what happened last time, Darnell? In
Last time...
Space?
So last time it's a bit weird, because every recap feels a little bit the same. I don't sound too loud, by the way, right?
No.
Okay, every recap seems a little bit the same because, like, for the last 4 chapters, it's been the same thing. They're gradually building up to this fly monster. And in 2.4, which should have come out before this, yeah, obviously. In 2.4 is when they use Dragon as bait. They send him into, like, the tomb, or not the tomb, but the place they were exploring earlier, where Queen Elizabeth was. And they're like, alright, Dragon, you be the bait, and then the
not
giant
necessarily
fly monster...
Queen Elizabeth. That is the historical thing, it's just Elizabeth.
Sorry, Gene Tyrant Elizabeth. And Dragon goes in, and then... I mean, I'm assuming his friends are still around, but, like, the last thing he's left with are like, wait, why can't I find anybody? And then, yeah, death. Death for him and his people.
Dragon's people. Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Indeed. Alrighty. So, I've got it open right here. Okay. The moment the scream left Dragon's throat, a skeletal armored Ruth leapt down from the ceiling. She'd clearly been clinging there, and landed right on top of the creature, slamming down on it with all her strength. The beast screeched as it was forced flat on the ground, the stone floor underneath it cracking from the impact. It was only brought down for a moment, however. It rolled over with myriad clicks from its legs and swiped at Ruth with its scythe slinger. What the fuck is a scythe slinger?
No, it's
what?
The stinger, as I mentioned, it's sort of like a...
Oh, scythe stinger! Yeah, I was like, what the scythe slinger? I was trying to picture this bizarre weapon where he had a slingshot that shot scythes. But, yeah, see, Ruth was here the whole time, Dragon. There was nothing to worry about. Ruth was off balance from the creature moving underneath her, and in the moment before she landed back on the ground, she couldn't maneuver herself to avoid the attack. The scythe surged through the air, cutting wind with a high-pitched whistle as it headed straight for Ruth's neck, and then the blade bounced right off thin air. The creature cocked its head in an almost comical expression of confusion. For a moment, Dragon too was equally baffled, until he looked up and saw Bruno Del Ced in the shadow of a nearby pillar. Purple aether cracked around his arm as he thrust it upon towards Ruth. His face was red with exertion, sweat running down his brow. He was a few meters away, but it seemed like he could project his force fields from that distance with a little effort. Landing on her feet, Ruth instantly spun and struck the fly creature with a devastating roundhouse kick, catching it right on the side of the abdomen. With another screech, the thing was sent flying up into the air. Onto the air? Should it be into the air? Limbs flailing, and there it was struck by 3 heartbeat shotguns, sent out by a still-concealed skipper. Bang, bang, bang! With each resonating noise, the creature twitched in the air, suspended there temporarily by the sheer force of the attacks. It's like fucking Devil May Cry. He's trying to get the combo! How long could we juggle this thing in the air, you think, Ruth? Dragon almost felt sorry for it, except he didn't really because it was horrifying to behold. He took a deep breath. He had to put in some obligatory effort now, after all. When the creature fell back to the ground, Dragon was ready for it. He plunged a fistful of sparkling blue aether directly into the side of its face, taking care to avoid the maw of fangs and proboscis. He probably did just as much damage to his own hand as the creature. It recoiled from the impact with an angry shriek, but Dragon's fist ached as if he'd slammed it into a wall. Dragon winced. He'd really expected to do more damage than that. The thing had been getting a pummeling over the last minute or so, but it didn't seem to be impacting it too greatly. His fist, or just all of them in general?
In general.
The beast reared back, limbs and stinger held high up above it. Just one of those legs could be plunged right through Dragon without much difficulty. I do find it interesting that... I have a theory already, sorry to interrupt, because Dragon's, like, fist hurt, right? And also, punching things doesn't seem very Dragon. I have a feeling Skipper's gonna pass on the gun technique to him at some point. And also, the first big thing he did was with a projectile. He doesn't really seem like the guy that just goes in punching stuff, considering his body type and his personality. The beast reared back, limbs and stinger held high up above it. Just one of those legs could be plunged right through Dragon without much difficulty. He knew that. He couldn't look at them without knowing that. He had to act. Dodge towards it, he told himself. It'll use its other legs to block escape from the left and right. So dodge forward, right underneath its head, so it can't bite your head off. So he's doing a fucking Dark Souls roll. Yeah. Seemed like a plan. Dragon tensed his body, waiting for the moment when the creature would commit to an attack, when he could dodge without being cut off. The legs came down. Dragon blinked at the blur of movement. Oh, They were much faster than he'd expected. "Move, please," said an airy voice, and Dragon found himself flung backwards, just out of reach of the spider fly. Serena had jumped... Oh, that was Serena talking. Whoops, oh well. Serena had jumped in, shoving Dragon backwards and blocking the attack with a brickwork broadsword in one smooth motion. I thought that was Dragon yelling to himself to move. Violet Aether danced around Serena's arms as she held the creature back with her block. Dragon could see tiny cracks spreading in the surface of her sword. It was brick forced into the shape of a sword, after all, not an actually forged weapon. For attacks it would suffice, but defense was another story altogether. Before the sword could shatter, however, another 3 "Halt to beat the shotguns" rang out. Skipper was charging... You're editing it while I'm reading, so I don't know. Was charging out of cover on the other side of the room, pointing at the creature to direct his shots. The beast squealed and was sent rolling over and onto its side, and as it did, Ruth came on again, pummeling it with a series of devastating strikes. Fists rained down on every inch of exposed flesh, and Serena joined in, smashing her sword into the creature with such force that the weapon shattered.
This is literally part 5 of JoJo with the kick in the civilian.
The creature, thrashing and twitching in rage, opened its maw and hissed at its attackers, a strange orange fluid rising inside its mouth. Some kind of venom, without a doubt. The Gene Tyrants wouldn't have created a guard without enough contingencies to keep it around. Ruth noticed it too, and with a flash of movement, she chose to end the fight there and then. One fist came in from the left, one fist came in from the right. Oh, she's doing the fucking smash it in between. They smashed into each side of the creature's head and plunged deeper, compressing the thing's skull until Ruth's fists met each other in the middle. I called it. There was a sickening loud crack, and the beast was still, its legs falling limp. Panted Dragon, still out of breath. It sure took a beating. Well, said Ruth as she wiped the sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, I guess that was what it was for. Dragon glanced at Skipper, still approaching from some distance away. He offered a mute thumbs up, mercifully sparing them from the sound of his shouting. Serena frowned. Is that it? She said, pouting. I was hoping for a big, cool fight. I wanted it to shoot lasers at us. Lol, so random, Serena. She tapped the corpse with her foot. It twitched. Everything that happened after that happened all at once. The surface of the creature's skin began to warp and shift, as though a river were running underneath it. Skipper's eyes turned wide, his leisurely walk over transformed into a desperate run. Ruth leapt backwards with such force that her clawed boots left twin craters where she'd just been standing. Serena looked around, innocently confused, before Bruno took control, tried to form a force field around himself. But it was a second too late. The creature popped, its body bursting into a shower of sickly orange gas. What remained of the corpse shriveled into a pile of skin small enough to fit into a pocket. Bruno's wasn't it like half spider and fly? Wouldn't it have had an exoskeleton instead of skin?
Well, it's sort of fly shaped and spider shaped. It's a fucked up sort of genetic thing.
Okay. Bruno's half-formed shield kept out most of the gas, but not all of it, and with a mistimed breath he took in a significant amount of the poison. Instantly he heaved forwards, eyes wide and bloodshot, gloved hands clutching his chest, purple aether weakly circulating throughout his fingers. If that fucked Bruno up and he has a force field, Dragon is just dead right now. He'd die if he took another breath. That was obvious to anyone watching. Dragon was just inside the blast radius. With just a step or two backwards, he'd be home free. It'd be the smart thing to do. Get himself out of danger before deciding upon a plan. He took the deepest breath he could and stepped forwards into the smoke, marching forwards until he reached Bruno's spasming form. Since when has Dragon become a good guy like this? First you shoot Muzazi, and now this Dragon. Where did this come from, you bastard?
His thoughts are always like, I should not do this thing, but then he does it.
With a suppressed grunt of exertion, he seized Bruno by the back of the collar, and, securing his other hand over Bruno's mouth, he began to drag the afflicted boy out of the smoke. Skipper and Ruth's muffled voices came to him from outside the cloud. He had absolutely no idea what they were saying. Yeah, if Dragon had fucking... Well, obviously Muzazi would have saved him, but if Dragon hadn't listened to his instincts, 2 of the 3 people, or I guess if you count Bruno and Serena's 2, 3 of the 4 people who kidnapped him would already be dead. It would be so easy to escape. Bruno's mouth, he began to drag the afflicted boy out of the smoke. Skipper and Ruth's muffled voices came to him from outside the cloud. He had absolutely no idea what they were saying. How did Dragon go into the smoke? Did he just not breathe it in?
Yeah, he just held his breath.
Okay. Calling him an idiot, probably. Which, under the circumstances, they had every right to. Are they talking to Dragon, calling him an idiot?
Well, that's what he thinks they're probably saying.
Oh. Entering the smoke had been easy. Leaving with Bruno was another story. The additional weight, along with the fact that Bruno was thrashing around, meant that every step was a struggle. Each time his foot came down, Dragon felt the traitorous urge to take a long breath of sweet air. He had to resist. It was just a few steps. How could just a few steps take so damn long? The smoke stung in his eyes. He closed them. He stepped backwards, and backwards, and backwards, not even sure now that he was going in the right direction. Without his vision, he wasn't sure when he was out of the cloud. He knew the second he opened his eyes again, he wouldn't be able to resist taking a breath. The stinging in his eyes eased just a little. Did that mean he was out of the cloud? Could he trust this? He had to. Dragon snapped his eyes open, and at the same time, involuntarily, he took in a deep breath. His lungs tasted fresh air. Mila yawned as she straightened the various medical instruments she'd managed to scavenge over the years. The last time she'd had a patient in her tent, her shelves had been thrown into such disarray. She liked things tidy, and yet the world seemed to conspire against that kind of thing. They were clean, at least. Mila turned a scalpel over in her hand, inspecting it closely for any signs of rust or grime. If the humanists knew anything, it was how to clean things up. A knife that had been decaying in a junkyard for years could be made sterile as the day it was made, if you knew what you were doing. "If I'm distracting you," said Helga, sitting across from her at the little table, "I can come back another time." Mila shook her head. No, it's just a lot of work, you know? Everything." Helga cocked her head, smiled in that knowing way. "You're always complaining about hard work, but you do more of it than anyone. If you want to relax, you shouldn't volunteer for things." "If I don't volunteer for things," said Mila, taking a sip of her tea, "someone else will, and they'll mess it up. I know they will." "That's perfectionism talking." "Am I wrong, though?" Helga smiled again, took a sip from her own cup. The tea had been brewed from the paler strains of grass on Yaslip's surface. It was surprisingly tasty. "You should have more faith in people." Mila scoffed. "I save my faith for God. People are on their own." That was a decision she'd come to a long time ago, back on Serendipity, when her superiors at the hospital had made that request of her. She'd seen then the true face of people, and it wasn't something she wanted to see again. People were sacks filled with greed. Oh, here we go. This character. The only way to avoid that was to be like the humanists and actively dodge desire. Even then, you couldn't be sure. You're worried about something, sighed Helga, leaning in close as if inspecting her. "What is it?" Mila looked down, straightened the scalpel once again, moved her cup into a satisfying position on the table. "It's the outsiders. I'm not happy having them here." "Why not?" "No offense," Mila said, still looking down at the table. "I know you say you trust them. Normally that'd be enough for me too, but I don't know. There's just a bad feeling there." Helga put her hands on Mila's reassuringly. "You trust me, right?" Mila nodded. "Of course. If nothing else, that was true." Helga grinned. "And I trust them. Their leader helped me out a long time ago." "Oh, Skipper! Skipper, my boy!" "Helped you out how?" Helga booped Mila's nose. I knew Skipper... obviously he's a character, he has a past, but you know Skipper's past is the most wild shit.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Helga booped Mila's nose, smirking mischievously. It's so weird to read these sentences coming from your brain. "That's a secret." Mila looked away, embarrassed. Yeah, I know. That's why it's so weird. No matter how suspicious she tried to be, Helga could always detail her train of thought with a sly look and a wink. She could perform surgery without a bit of anxiety, but when she was with Helga, everything was a worry. Was she staring too much? Would she say the wrong thing? Would Helga laugh at that joke, or would she not get it? Oh, she lovesick for Helga. Keeping her hand as steady as possible, Mila took another sip of tea. It really did taste good. It wouldn't be for long, she knew that. But for this moment, in this place, she really was content. A shout rang out from outside the tent.
Yeah, that's
the second one that day. A cold chill settled over Mila. Had Dean's condition taken a turn for the worse? She should have been with him, damn it, not lazing around drinking tea. She stood up with such force that the chair she'd been sitting in toppled backwards to the floor, and at the same moment she went to open the tent flaps, someone else beat her to it. Aiden, the new recruit with the mismatched eyes, gaped at her from the entrance. "What happened?" Helga said, voice curt. She went from flirt to leader in a second flat. Aiden panted for breath. He'd obviously run all the way here. It's the outsiders, ma'am," he said, stuttering and halting. Anxiety was written all over his face. "Well, one of them's been poisoned."
I can't believe that it must be Skipper.
Yeah, it has to be. So, one of them makes me think it's Dragon and it wasn't fresh air. So, thoughts. As usual, the chapter was really well written.
Thank you.
The moment between Helga and Mila was surprisingly cute. I did not ever expect Tanhony to write any kind of cutesy romance, even if it was just a little bit of flirting. That was fun. My one complaint about Dragon as a character, and I'm not telling you need to change this is just my subjective view as a reader. when he saved Ruth without thinking, I feel like it made a bit more sense, because he had spent the last few chapters, sort of building a bond, even reluctantly, with Ruth through their attempt to, infiltrate the heart building. But all Bruno has done is literally be shitty to him and hate him, and he still saved him for some reason.
To be fair, by saving Bruno, you're also, by extension, saving Serena, who's nice.
That's true. You know what? When you mention that, that's fair. Maybe I was just thinking about it that way because Bruno was the one alive at the time. Or active in the body, rather, because he took over. I guess that makes a little more sense. That's fair, yeah. But I was going to say, Dragon doesn't really seem like the hero protagonist type character, and that felt like a moment for that. But when you mention Serena, it makes a little more sense. Also, if you consider the fact that letting them die might have made him look bad to the others. Yeah. But I don't think that was a concern he even thought would have been possible at the time. But other than that, I really liked it. I'm excited to see what happens. I wonder if it's Bruno/Serena who's really poisoned, or Dragon. And I still have plenty of theories about Bruno and Serena, whether it's just multiple personality disorder in like a Diavolo-style sense, or if it's like two souls in one body, or if it's like each is a half of the brain. I'm still very curious. I've talked about this a lot. So I would like to ask the viewers, we haven't seen anyone answer the questions yet. As we're recording this, only 2.1 and 2.2 videos are out. Not 2.3 and 4 yet, because we have a bit of a backlog. But for the viewers at home, our question, or rather my question for you is, what do you think Bruno and Serena's deal is? Like, how they are the way they are.
Yeah, I love to see theories.
Yeah. All right. And I believe we're going to leave it there for the day, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Indeed. Bye!
Bye!